Testing. Good evening, councillors and members in the public gallery. I will officially open this evening's ordinary council meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you for your attendance tonight. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 3 is announcements from the presiding members and councillors. I do have something to mention this evening. I have received advice from the Chief Executive Officer that item 10.1.5, local planning strategy, is being deferred from tonight's meeting and will be tabled at the March OCM. The city had sought an exemption from the Minister for councillors with an interest to participate. This was granted, allowing 2 councillors with interest to participate. Unfortunately, one of these councillors was an apology for tonight's meeting, so therefore we no longer have a quorum and the approval was only for tonight's meeting. The CEO will seek a similar exemption for the March OCM. I'll move on to item 4, which is attendance. Councillor Clark has provided an apology for tonight. All other councillors are present in the chamber this evening. Applications for leave. Are there any councillors who'd like to apply for a leave of absence? I would like to apply for leave from the 10th of March to the 17th of March inclusive. Do I have a mover and seconder?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, sorry. I also would like to apply for a one-day leave for the 19th of March. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other leave? If not, can I have a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Maleka, seconded Councillor Latta. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 5, disclosures of interest. Just keeping in mind that 10.1.5 local planning strategy has been deferred, so we don't need to declare anything on that item. I will also declare, I have a declaration here that Bianca Sandri, Director of Community Services, has declared an impartial interest in item 10.4.1 as she has previously provided her professional opinion on this application in her previous role and has not been involved in the preparation of this report. Councillors, are there any interests? Councillor Latta.
Thank you. On item 10.1.2, proposed amendment to Town Planning Scheme number 24 for 1 Kelvin Street, I have an impartial interest as I submitted a deputation on behalf of a community group for the June 2023 OCM prior to being elected on council, and I know some of the people who have submitted comments on the amendment. And on item 11.3, Councillor, the Deputy Mayor's motion for potential land acquisition for parking in Maylands, I have a financial interest due to owning a business in the town centre that would potentially benefit from the motion, and I will leave the room for that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Ostrowski.
Thank you. My first one is for item 10.2.1, the financial reports for the period 31 January 2024. The street that my mother lives on and owns her property on is mentioned in this report, and for some roadworks, it's an impartial interest and I'll be staying in the room. And just on item 10.4.1, proposed alterations and additions to the concrete batching plant. I have visited that site maybe 1-2 years ago to understand how the site operates, so impartial interest, staying in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Maleka.
I too would like to declare an impartial interest to 10.4.1. I have attended the WA Premix for a tour of the place when we were preparing for this a couple of years ago as well. So I'll stay in the room.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, I'd like to have declare an impartial interest for item 10.4.2. Impartial because I have met with the applicant and I know the architect. And also the concrete batching plant one, that I too, a few years ago, attended the site.
So that's an impartial interest and you'll
Both
stay in the room?
impartial, that's right, both
Okay.
impartial.
Anyone else? I'll also declare an impartial interest in item 10.4.1, proposed alterations and additions to concrete batching plant. I also attended the same site visit with the councillors and have met the directors and staff through my role as mayor. It's an impartial interest and I'll be staying in the room. Okay, if that's all, we'll now move on to public question time. Members of the gallery, I'll first call for questions on items on this evening's agenda, and then I will open onto questions on items not on the agenda. Please provide your name and suburb before you ask your question, and please keep in mind that you are limited to 3 questions. Are there any questions on an item on tonight's agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah. Before I do, can I just, this is a letter about something different, very nice for the staff for Bayswater Waves, but there were some concerns, and that's a letter from them. So just to give you that first. Thank you. My first question, Madam Mayor. I'd like to know if the Central Ward councillors were aware of the actual Minister for the Environment then, who said the development approval conditions issued by SET also restrict hours of operation to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, excluding public holidays. That was in his confirmation letter about the appeals convener, and that was his letter stated there. Did you know? You did know. You both know that that is what the Minister said and sat. Thank you. My second question, Madam Mayor, is it true, and this was from the appeals convener, as noted under previous grounds of appeal, it is also noted that the proponent must comply with planning conditions set by SAT, as well as the STAC requirements in relation to noise, dust and other related matters under the concrete batching regulations and noise regulations, and this was for the Ransburg trading as WA premix.
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the manager to respond.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The State Administrative Tribunal issued development approval for the Ransburg concrete batching plant in September 2015. There were 38 conditions actually relating to how the site was to operate. A number of these conditions related to dust monitoring, the provision of annual and quarterly reporting. All properties are required to comply with the Environmental Protection Act with respect to noise, and this is no different. There aren't specific. There are a number of conditions which relate mainly to dust. There is an environmental management strategy for the site which needs to be updated on a 3 annual basis, every 3 years, and the results of that audit need to be provided to the City of Bayswater. The conditions of operating are restricted from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday, public holidays excluded, and that no front end loader may operate.
Excuse me, without causing debate, this is the noise that these people are listening to. This is the batching plant, which was non-compliant that evening, and this is what they'll be putting up with
Ms. Palmer,
out of hours.
thank you. Do you have a third question?
That was my second question then.
We do have a third question.
This is the third. Would you like to put up with that?
Thank you. Councillors have heard the question and will consider the item this evening. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question on an item on tonight's agenda? Please come forward.
Yeah, my name's John Dome. I'm a resident ratepayer of Hackbridge Way. I think Mrs Palmer was answering most of the things that I was querying,
Okay.
I think.
Would you like to ask the questions?
No, I think
Oh, you're
Mrs
happy
Palmer's
with that?
already asked the questions.
Do you want to ask the third one? That third one. That's a good question.
I have one here apparently. Will they use the cover of darkness to do dry mixing as they have been recorded on video doing dry mix previously?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the manager to respond.
Through you, Madam Mayor, any development application is required to comply with the.
Very well.
Okay, beg your pardon. Any development application is required to comply with the information which is provided, any conditions which have been approved, and any plans which have been submitted. It's a wet mix plant. The city is not aware of any dry mix operations occurring on the site.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to ask questions on an item on this evening's agenda? If not, does anyone have questions on an item not on the agenda?
Harvey Tonkin, Noranda. At the last meeting, of which I was very disappointed with, apparently there were 4 questions lodged with the council that we never heard an answer for, that the councillors apparently received a copy of those questions. I was looking through the agenda, I can't see them. They were given prior to the meeting. No one can remember it.
So the question is why
Where are
aren't
they?
they aren't included?
And the answers.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'll have to take that on notice.
Does that mean the answers will come quickly, or? Because do I have to wait another month?
The CEO has confirmed he will look into it tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you. The next question I have is, are the ratepayers an integral and important part of the council? The council.
The council is made up of ratepayers.
That's not what I asked. I know they're made up of ratepayers, but are they important to the council?
Yes.
Okay. Why is it that when you ask a question to some of the staff, and often you have to wait your 10 working days, the response is generic? You ask a specific question and you get a generic response. Why is it? Do you want an example? I don't know how long you want me to ask this question for.
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the CEO to respond.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm more than happy, Mr Tonkin, if you want to arrange a time to come in and give me those examples, and I'm more than happy to look into them for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question not on an item on this evening's agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sally Palmer, 100 McGilvray Avenue. With regard to the letter that you've received, there is concern among people who attend the aquarobics class that they haven't had an aquarobics instructor for quite some time. And also when they do pay monthly and annually, they're not getting the response that if there isn't an aquarobics instructor and if it's full, they're turned away. They're then told go and do some aerobics or something up at the Morley Rec Centre, which meant they would be paying monthly or annually for their fees at the Bayswater Waves, but then they'll be expected to pay again at the Morley Rec Centre if they can't be fitted into the aquarobics, and they feel that this is very unfair. I'm just aligning that to the letter that you've received. They do love the staff, though. They love the staff, but they're very concerned about the management and how that's been affected. Thank you. That's that question.
So thank you very much for your question. I haven't had an opportunity, neither has the staff had an opportunity to read the letter. However, I will refer to the Director of Communities Services.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms Palmer, for your question. I am aware of the letter. With respect to the aqua aerobics instructor, in fact, they did have they worked with the city yesterday and continue to be employed by the city. There has been one aerobics instructor who is injured and is not currently working at the moment due to their injury. So we are looking at some additional staff to cover those shifts. So my understanding is that the aqua aerobics is occurring at the moment. With respect to the Morley Sport and Recreation Centre, the type of membership is based on dry fitness, which is a gym membership, versus an aquatic membership, which is a wet membership. There is also an opportunity to have both. And I believe in this instance, the person may have an aqua membership, so therefore didn't qualify for the dry membership. However, we note the concerns raised and will consider that moving forward.
Thank you. They were concerned that the actual instructors there weren't actual aqua instructors, they're actually members of staff, and also that they were told to go to silver sneakers, and when they did get there, they were told to pay. So that's the response I'm giving you back. My second question is to the CEO, and in this regard, I really feel that an experienced CEO who's been a CEO in country areas plus big local government plans, I'm just wondering what sort of consequences did you outline in this extraordinary election that is taking place in a fortnight? I mean, it was given and triggered 4 months before the results was given in October. Everyone's been working hard, including staff, on this occasion. Did you actually outline to the Mayor and everybody else what concerns there was in this? Did you actually outline it to the Mayor?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. Is the question in relation to concerns or the process?
Yes, very much concerns and the consequences about the weather, for a start, the health of people doing this, the cost, everything. Did you outline all of these aspects to the Mayor when this was triggered?
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, I can confirm that the process that the council would need to undertake for the extraordinary election was outlined.
To the Mayor from you?
I've given the Mayor that briefing.
All the consequences?
Well, I'm not sure of the context of what you're saying in relation to consequences. The city has to follow a process, and that process was outlined to the Mayor.
Okay, I just feel in my gut instinct that none of, or most of the consequences that are occurring, whether it's the weather, whether it's people's health, the time, the cost, everything, I don't think was outlined as good as it should have been. That's my response to your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? Please come forward.
Harry Bazidis, Naranda. My question is regarding the EV charging stations. I believe that a new EV charging station has been installed at the Morley Recreation Complex, and I think that's a great idea. My question is, what are the future plans for a rollout of more EV charging stations?
Thank you for your question, and I will refer to the Director.
Through the Chair, the city needs to do more work in terms of understanding where those EV chargers need to be located and what the restrictions are. We need to look at how they can be connected and talk to Western Power and also look at which buildings they can be attached to. So there's a fair bit of work that's being done in the background. There will be a report going to Council in future regarding how we're planning to roll these out going forwards.
Is there a timeline for that?
I'll go to the Director.
Because the future can be a very, very long time. That's my experience in local government.
I'll go to the Director.
Yeah.
It will be, we'll be looking at this over the next 12 months.
So has money been put aside in the coming budget for this to happen? Or are we looking at one financial year of consideration? I just want to get my head around this, that's all.
Yep, through the chair, I mean, the council, it is a budget consideration, but we do have some funds set aside for the purpose of looking at initiatives associated with, renewable energy and other such initiatives.
Okay, then I won't ask when North Ward's going to get one. All right, my second question is the questions from the public gallery, the ones that are given to council in advance and in writing. Can I ask why they're not read out? They used to be read out a long time ago, and we used to sit here and listen to the questions being read out with answers because they were given, the council was given prior notice of these questions.
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Thank you.
Yep. Through the chair, there's no actual requirement for the questions to be read out at the meeting, and since the city's had since COVID basically, and the city's had their online form for putting in public questions, we receive such a large amount of public questions online that it would extend public question time to a really long time, which is generally why they're not read out anymore.
Thank you. Then, as a sign of respect to the ratepayers and the fact that COVID is now over, can I request that, Madam Mayor, you read out each question that's been given to council with prior notice?
Mr. Bazidis, as was mentioned, we receive some weeks multiple, like over 10 questions, and the responses to those can be very long. So I feel it's respectful enough that it is included in the minutes of the meeting in writing, so it's visible forever and a day for people to see those questions and the responses to those questions. And I do take on board what was said by the previous Mr. Tonkin, that last month's have been missed, and we will look into that and ensure that doesn't happen again.
I just heard that the ratepayers are very important. That seems to be a bit of rhetoric to me. And I do encourage councillors to remember that the ratepayers are the most important people.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Sorry, third question. I've been coming to meetings, how long? 20? Sorry, 20 years? 20 years? I don't often use the word never, but I have never in 20 years, after coming to meetings every month, come across so many questions that they couldn't be answered. Now, you can tell me that during COVID there was a problem, but all the other times there has never been a problem. We've been able to see the questions, they've been answered, they've been read out. If the council comes to me and said, look, we've got too many questions and no one here asked the question, does that mean we'll never see them?
The questions and responses are included in the minutes of the meeting. Thank you for your question, Mr. Tonkin.
Okay, but at the last meeting, we were told the councillors received the questions. You told us, you said, all your councillors have got the questions.
Yes.
Okay, but the ratepayers didn't have them. Okay, you didn't read them out, but they were printed out and they weren't printed for us. I'm just trying to reinforce that this change that you've introduced doesn't help the ratepayers. We're part of your business.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask on an item not on the agenda? No? So councillors, the city has received questions in writing from 3 ratepayers. These questions and the responses from officers have been listed in your run sheet, and I'll take those as read. These questions and responses will be included in the minutes for this meeting. So I now move on to item 7, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 30th of January 2024? Moved, Councillor Latta. Seconded, Councillor Eveson. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against is Councillor Ostaszewski. The next item is 8 presentations. Do councillors have any petitions to table this evening? No. There are no presentations and deputations were heard at last week's agenda briefing forum. And there are no delegates' reports this evening. So I'll move on to item 9, which is method of dealing with agenda business. And pulling first this evening is Councillor Latta. Nothing? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Item 10.1.2, Kelvin Street, Maylands, Sherwood Reserve. 10.1.3, the naming register. 10.4.2 and 10.5.1.1. And that's it.
Sorry, it was 10.4.2.
Oh, yes, the proposed change of use office and restaurant. And the last one was 10.5.1.1, communications and social media policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Bull? Councillor Johnson?
10.3.1, please, for the amendment that I've put in the run sheet.
Thank you. Councillor Maleka? Councillor Ostaszewski?
Thank you. 10.4.1, proposed alterations and additions to concrete batching plant.
Thank you. Councillor Eason? Councillor Sutherland? No? Okay. So we'll now move to consideration of the reports in section 10. Can I please have a mover and seconder to bring forward items 10.1.4, 10.1.5 and 10.4.1, which were subject to deputations? Councillor Sutherland moved. You're moved.
Can I just also suggest 10.4.2 because there's people.
Yeah, we can put that to the vote as well.
10.1.5 is the LPS, the planning strategy.
That's been deferred.
You just said it when you were listing them.
Did I?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. That hasn't been updated. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'll repeat that. I'll repeat that now. Can I please have a mover and seconder to bring forward items 10.1.4, 10.4.1 and 10.4.2? Move Councillor Bull, seconded Councillor Sutherland. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, so the first item is 10.1.4, proposed closure of pedestrian access way between Rowe Place and Bramwell Road, Noranda. No one's pulled this. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Bull. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Happy to move the officer's recommendation and really commend the neighbours that made submissions on that. There were some really lovely comments in there.
Thank you. Councillor Bull. Would anyone like to speak against this? Councillor Sutherland.
I'm not really against, but I just wanted to say a few things about this. Obviously, I do feel for the resident that put this through and who brought it up. I have sympathy big time. I know this area well. Despite what the officers say, there is antisocial behaviour, but it is difficult to close these pores when there are so many people that rely on it, just the way that the suburb's laid out. But I do strongly suggest, did I say strongly suggest, that we do some pruning and make it easier for residents walking to and from, because we do need security there. So at this stage, I'm still not 100% for or against, so I'm just thinking about it till we have to vote.
Thank you. Anyone speaking for? Anyone against? If not, I'll go the mover to close. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Ostaszewski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against? Councillor Sutherland. That is carried. So the next item is 10.4.1, proposed alterations and additions to concrete batching plant, State Administrative Tribunal, Section 31 reconsideration. This has been pulled by Councillor Ostaszewski. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Maleka. Councillor Ostaszewski.
Thank you. Whenever the concrete batching plant item comes up, it's always a difficult item for me, and I think it's also a very difficult item for the residents around Joan Rycroft Reserve there. Every time I have a difficult decision to make, I always go back out to the ratepayers who I believe are being affected to find out from them and basically get their guidance. What do you want me to do right now? And with this item that's on the table today, I again, with Councillor Maleka on Sunday, went back out to our community, and Monday afternoon as well, we went back out to our community and had the residents attending again to share their feedback. The history of this plant has brought back a lot of emotions and a lot of thoughts and a lot of issues that have been dealt with in previous times this has been dealt with the council. And yes, the residents are always going to be disappointed that the plant is where it is. However, the community is also pragmatic and appreciative of the position where we are at the moment. They understand where all the pieces lie on the chessboard and how moving one piece may change an outcome in another way. And from the meetings that we've had again over the last couple of days, and also from the phone calls that I've received, 2 phone calls and a couple of emails, I feel very comfortable moving this recommendation. This recommendation has been highly negotiated between our acoustic expert, who I believe is one of the best in Australia, or is the best in Australia, by our lawyers, by their acoustic experts, and by their lawyers as well. This has been negotiated down in such fine detail where all of the parties involved have reached an agreement. The community is satisfied with this agreement. They are satisfied that there are extra operating conditions which we put in place to minimise noise. They are satisfied that the extra infrastructure that is going into the plant will help to reduce noise. They are satisfied that the operators will be undertaking extra training of their staff. There's so many extra things that are being put in place on this concrete batching plant. It's going to be one of the most highly regulated batching plants in the country. However, I don't have a problem with that, because when you do move in next door to residents, you want to get the best outcome so both of you can live happily ever after. And I think we're finally getting to that point now where this is done. And the residents, I believe, and I've been guided by my residents, or the residents, not my residents, sorry. I've been guided by the residents to say that this is the best we can do at the moment. In regards to noise, the residents have said that they would like more regular monitoring of noise. However, they do not want to compromise what is on the table now by making any changes to this recommendation. I suggested to the residents that we could always bring a notice of motion back next month to ask the city to undertake extra monitoring, and we can also, as councillors, continue to push the city to do measuring of noise, and residents can continue to contact the city if they feel there are any noise issues as well, where they'll get an immediate response from the city in regards to going out and measuring the noise. There is no noise. The acoustic reports, the scientific reports that we have been told about in our briefing show that at the times that this plant wants to operate, the residents will be hearing nothing from the concrete batching plant. At best, they'll be hearing the noise from Tonkin Highway, the airport, the train line, the ambient noise in the area. So I go back to the fact that we've been out to our residents, they've given us guidance, and they are satisfied with what is on the table is the way to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maleka.
Thank you. Well, you've pretty much summed everything up for us, Councillor Ostaszewski. So what you've heard is that we've been through a very rigorous process. This has been around for longer than I've been on council, and I've heard all of the stories. I've heard the history. I've heard from the residents themselves. I've heard from people that live in the area. And we've crunched and we've crunched and we've crunched, and we've come to these conditions now. And I think we've really done a really good job, a really great job at coming up with a whole range of recommendations, a whole range of conditions that we know WA Premix has agreed to. And they are there in writing, and we're not willing to mess with those. And let's not forget, if these aren't met, I'm sure the residents will be pretty quick to let us know. So I feel satisfied that we are in a really good place here.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Councillor Bull?
Thank you. I'm not going to support what's on the table, and the main reason is I haven't been able to see anything that explains why 4 a.m. is needed, or anything of any substance that supports why 4 a.m. is needed. My recollection was that the last time this came to council, Councillor Ostaszewski moved the amendment to allow to 6 a.m. Is that my... No, I got that wrong. Okay. I do recall some people in the gallery having concerns that I voted against it last time because they thought that I was voting against the 6 a.m. Point. But what I've noticed consistently is that there's never actually an explanation as to why they need to work so early at 4 a.m, let alone 6 a.m. And I've received different feedback from the residents to the description that was given in the mover and the seconder's speeches, that the community aren't comfortable with a 4 a.m. start, and they're genuinely concerned about the noise, which I can understand because 4 a.m. is super early. So I think 6 a.m. is an excellent compromise, and that's what I'll continue to support. As a consequence, I can't vote in favour of this.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak for? Anyone against? Councillor Sutherland. Go ahead.
To me, this is like deja vu. We've been through this. I was on the council the first time this happened. It did come to, I think it came to the council. Are you talking about the August 22 meeting we might have had? Something, yeah. And I was obviously agreed not to support that extension, subject to some more investigation and costs, I might add, as well. But since then, the city and the business have put a lot of work into this issue. The city appointed a noise controller, went through the worst case scenarios with the company, with the batching plant. And after the workshop last week, I'm more than satisfied that, you know, the best we can do is this, because we have got a lot of restrictions on this. I'd like to also just let the councillors know, if we don't agree to this, if we say no, we're not, this goes back to SAT and it's going to cost us money. And last time we said no when we were told to say yes, it cost us a lot of money. And also all the conditions and that the batching plant said yes to will be off the table, and potentially they could go for 24 hours. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So I actually think we have, in my mind, I know this is not ideal, but it is there, it's going to operate, and this is the best they've put on the table, and we've had all our experts look at this. It's cost a lot of money and man hours, which is right and proper to do, because I feel now we should pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Just note, councillors, I did have an amendment that's been handed around in the run sheet. It was about asking for more frequent noise monitoring. Now, I've been advised that amendment wouldn't be acceptable to the applicant, so I won't be putting that up because that wasn't my intention. But certainly was what I'm not seeing in the recommendations, and the reason that I wanted to put that is I'm not seeing that sort of close the loop. Like, I do appreciate the work that the city and the applicant have done around putting up ideas that's going to reduce the noise, and obviously they're quite substantiated ideas. I do appreciate the briefing that we had last week and the information that we've been provided around the noise, but what I'm not seeing in what's in front of us tonight is that closing the loop, that those things that they say they're going to do, and I have every confidence they will, that will actually achieve the noise reduction outcomes that we want. And I'm just not seeing that to my satisfaction on this. 4 a.m. is not 6 a.m. And I hear, and I keep hearing, that it is the most heavily regulated concrete batching plant around. That's also because there aren't any others within 200 metres of residence, and that's how it should be. So I'm really struggling to be able to support what's on the table, because what, to me, it doesn't close the loop and achieve that 30 decibels that we've been advised they're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Ladder.
Thank you. I wanted to hear what residents had to say to you, so thank you for relaying that back to us. Having heard in the briefing about the work that's gone into this compromise, I suppose, this outcome before us, and hearing about how residents feel about that, I think I'm going to support it. But I do think that a motion for independent monitoring is a really important part of that, and I appreciate why we don't want to amend this particular motion, but I do think that we need an independent way to verify that it's happening as is being promised, for the sake of residents. So it's not, so the onus is not on residents to monitor compliance themselves. I think if we've gone to the effort of coming up with all of these conditions, then we should play a part in monitoring it.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this? I'll just say that I know that this is a really sensitive topic in the community, and it's been ongoing for many, many years. I'm glad to see that this is kind of the end tonight. I can't imagine that this would come back for any other reason, so I'm really happy to see that. And I do just want to acknowledge particularly all the staff that have been involved in this, because it has been a long, ongoing process with a lot of interest from the community. But also, I'd like to acknowledge the Central Ward councillors, Councillor Osazowski and Councillor Maleka, and appreciate the efforts that you have gone to seek feedback from the community, which has helped us to make, helps us make a informed decision on such a sensitive topic. So thank you. All right, I'll go to the mover to close.
Thank you. When we were having our meetings, it came up from residents in regards to the noise and measuring the noise, and there is a requirement for, I think it's an annual report for noise reporting, but what happens in between, and the residents would like to see that noise is being monitored to check that compliance is being achieved. And when I was speaking to the residents, I did say to them, well, we can do that through two ways. One is a notice of motion through council to give a very clear signal to the city that we want this monitored regularly, or we can also continue to advocate to the city to get it done. So we've got some options up our sleeve here. So thank you, Councillor Johnson, for bringing that up and for providing your amendment too, because it is important that I think we are checking that the noise issues are exactly as the residents would expect. Thank you.
Thank you. I now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Ladder, Deputy Mayor and myself. All those against is Councillor Bull and Councillor Johnson. That is carried. Okay, so we now move on to item 10.4.2, which is proposed change of use office and restaurant, lot 600 160 Watley Crescent. So this was pulled by the Deputy Mayor. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Yes, please.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ladder. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Look, I'm very happy to support this application. For those who remember, this is the second round that we are considering an application for this building. We were all hoping that we will see a wine bar several years ago. And if you recall, we had a toilet saga at that stage, the location, and eventually we were able to find a better location for that public toilet instead of in front of that wine bar. But it was in some way too late from what I understood, and it did not continue. But now we have another chance to support activating that corner of the town centre. It is literally on the corner of the Maylands Town Centre, which is great. I really love what the owners are planning on doing there. I know that they are very passionate from previous conversations with them about the previous application. They are very motivated to provide a good service and make adjustments and improvements to the building to welcome lots of new customers to that area. So I think it will be good. It will provide more safety to have something there instead of just a closed building in the evenings. I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen there.
Thank you, Councillor Ladder.
I just think that this is a really wonderful addition to the town centre and comes at a great time where you see another nighttime venue closing with Henry on 8th closing their doors. And so I think that the vibrancy and connection around the whole town centre will be really enhanced by this. So I'm excited for it. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Anyone for? Councillor Sutherland?
Oh, no, not really. I haven't got anything much to add. I just want to add I think this will be a great addition to the community. It's in the middle of the Maylands Activity Centre and it's in a great location. So it's near the train station, near major transport. And I think it's a beautiful building and I'll bring it on. I can't wait to go and look at it when it's all finished.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this? If not, go to the mover to close.
Yes, thank you for the support that I heard so far. And as I heard it and highlighting it is a beautiful heritage building and it will be great to experience it from the inside. Thank you.
I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. So that concludes the items in section 10 that were brought forward. So we'll now move to the remaining items that have been withdrawn by councillors. So just for those in the gallery who were interested, if you feel free to leave. Thank you. Or stay if you wish. So the next item that was pulled is 10.1.2, proposed amendment to town planning scheme number 24. Deputy Mayor, you've pulled this. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Yes, thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ladder, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Look, I thought it's worth highlighting this item. Thank you, councillors, again for supporting my motion last year to rezone that lot, which was supported by many residents around. This is really great. As you know, it was originally zoned as residential, but I see it as historic planning anomaly that we are now finally fixing. The improvements that the city has recently done to that reserve are really great, and I've been receiving great feedback. So thank you to the officers. This small pocket park, as I mentioned previously, attracts so many people from the area. We have big apartment buildings and more residential developments in Maylands. So each similar pocket parks are so important to residents. So I hope everyone will support this final stage.
Councillor Ladder.
So I live not very far from this, and when my child was young we would use it quite a lot, and it's used, I can see people using it quite often. There are big apartments nearby without this kind of green space and infrastructure, so it's really wonderful to preserve it for how the community is using it and their understanding of what that space is for. And I think that it's looking fantastic after all the landscaping upgrades.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Anyone for? Councillor Bull?
Yeah, I'd just like to also acknowledge how terrific that little spot is looking. I had an opportunity to go by and have a look at it a couple of weeks ago, and my word, it's beautiful. I really want to just acknowledge the staff for what they've done. It's like an oasis, and if councillors haven't visited it before, I'd really encourage them to. It is really a special place, so I'm really happy that we're rezoning this to public open space, which is how it's used by the local community in any event.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Anyone for? If not, I'll go the mover to close. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, the next item is 10.1.3, City of Bayswater Naming Register. Deputy Mayor, you've pulled this one.
Yes, I have an alternative motion that is in the run sheet, and I can go through quickly what I have changed. So the proposal here is to endorse, if you want, a partial list from the table prepared by the officers. I asked them to consider each one of the nominees whether we received enough sufficient evidence to demonstrate the significant contribution of those people to the City of Bayswater, and all those that the city indicated that they did not have enough evidence, those are the numbers that you see in LIMP 2, and those are the numbers that we will go back to the nominees and ask for more information, so that we're not ruling them out. We are just removing them at this stage from the table. We're not approving them until we really can clearly see that they provided a contribution. And the other change that I made in accordance with that change, I had to update LIMP 5, the 3 names recommended for the landway in Maylands. I had to update the first name because previously the name that was there now is being suggested to go back to the nominee. So again, I asked the city to provide a different recommendation. This is what the city recommended, so I just went with it. So those are the changes.
So thank you. I'll see if there's a seconder. Councillor Ladder. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, I am not fussed about the specifics of and the details of the table. If anyone wants to propose any changes to any of what you see in front of us, I'd be happy to support. As I said, this is based on what the officers provided me, more or less. What the issue that I had that brought me to provide this alternative is that I did not think that any person who lived in the city should have a street named after them or a park named after them just because they lived or worked. I think that weakens the significance of what we're doing here, of the names and the significance of those who did contribute and they have other, their names are, named after streets or parks. So to preserve that importance that I think was happening until now, I propose this so we can make sure that any name, there is some evidence to support, what did they do actually in the community. And I'll just take the point that I'm very pleased to see new names that we will consider in the future, which is Aboriginal names and lots of names after women. I think this is a great improvement and step forward for our city, and those are recommended here in LIMP 5 specifically for the landway in Maylands. 2 of them are Aboriginal names, and 1 of them is a name after a woman. So I think that's a great step forward to prioritize them, and I'm hoping to see more and more names after those groups, important groups in our community. Thank you.
Councillor Ladder.
I just saw this not too long before the meeting, but I support the idea that we would want people with significant contributions. I do think it's important that we have a broad understanding of contributions so that it doesn't exclude people that may not have traditionally been recognised, such as the contributions of women in the past. But I do think that there should be a requirement to make a case for somebody's significant contribution in order to be on the list of names. So, yeah.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment for your consideration, and that's also been included in the run sheet for councillors. So I had it as Lim 4, but given your changes, it would now be an additional Lim 6. And I'll read it out and then ask if you accept the amendment. So it's an additional limb that would read, request that council request the Chief Executive Officer to proactively engage with the city's multicultural communities, including their community groups and representatives, to invite additional nominations that reflect the full breadth of the city's cultural and linguistic diversity and history to be added to the names register. So I'll just check if you accept that.
Very happy to support it.
And the seconder? Yep. Okay, so that now forms part of the substantive motion. So I will speak to this. So first, I'd like to acknowledge the work that's gone into updating our names register. And I want to acknowledge the individuals, organisations and natural features that will be approved for addition to the register tonight. However, councillors, I do need to express my disappointment, not at what has been put forward for inclusion on the naming register, but what has not. When I received the list of names recommended for inclusion, some 49 names in all originally, there were only 3 names from a non-Anglo-Saxon immigrant background. There were 14 Aboriginal names, and I welcome their inclusion. There were 27 names of an English-speaking Anglo-Saxon background. There was 1 Asian name, 1 German, and 1 Polish, and that was it. And I don't think that's good enough. We should be really proud that the City of Bayswater has an incredible cultural and linguistic diversity and history in our city. According to the 2021 census, 50% of our residents have both parents born overseas, with another 14.4% having had one parent born overseas. 30% of our households speak a language other than English at home. 4.6% of our residents speak a Chinese language at home. 3.6% speak Vietnamese. 2.6% speak Italian, and nearly 1% speak Arabic. In my home suburb of Noranda, 14% of residents were born in Europe and nearly 17% were born in Asia. And yet, of 49 names recommended for inclusion, only 1 was of Asian origin. The names submitted for streets and places in our community do not reflect our community enough, nor do they reflect our wonderful migrant history, and that's not good enough. Names are important. Names mean something. Names are how we define ourselves and our place in the world. Names are identity and belonging. For such huge numbers of our community to be left out of our place names is simply unacceptable. So that's why I moved the amendment, and I thank the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Latta for including that, because all of our community, in all its cultural and linguistic diversity, can be represented on our signs and in our maps and in the very heart of the place they now call home. And I hope that all councillors will support this. So would anyone like to speak against? Anyone for?
Sorry,
Councillor
just to
Johnson?
clarify, for or against your amendment, do you mean? Or
No,
for
the amendment's
whole
now part
thing?
of the substantive.
Oh, yeah, that's what I understood that
Yeah.
to be the fact. Okay. I'd like to foreshadow the officer's recommendation, please.
Anyone else wish to speak on this? If not, I'll go to the mover to close.
Thank you, and I thank the Mayor for proposing this amendment. I think I am probably the only councillor here who actually was born overseas, so I feel exactly what the Mayor was talking about. I know the challenges that migrants are going through. I just spoke about it just last week in the citizenship ceremony. Yes, we should diversify the names even beyond, and it's good that it has been just reviewed and we are going to seek more, hopefully more changes and additions to this live register that we will hopefully work slowly to add more and more names to represent different sections of the community. So thank you, everyone.
I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull and myself. All those against? Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Johnson, and that is carried. So we'll now move on to item 10.2.1, financial report for the period ending 31st of January. Councillor Osazowski has an impartial interest in this, but would anyone like to move the officer's recommendation? Move Councillor Bull, seconded Councillor Latta, Councillor Bull.
Very briefly, I just want to thank the director and manager who responded to my query last week around the amendment to the proposed fees and charges relating to the hire of the Mangini room and the Wellington room, and appreciate their assurance that the fees and charges will not result in existing users paying more, and in fact some may pay less. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Latta. Anyone wish to speak on this item? If not, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. So the next item is 10.3.1, remuneration for members of Maylands Lake Scientific Advisory Panel. Councillor Johnson, you've pulled this.
Yeah, thank you. Just to move the amendment in the run sheet, please.
So councillors, you've been provided that. Councillor Johnson, did you want to read that out?
I can read it out. Thanks for popping up on the screen for me. It says that council approves the remuneration for all scientific advisory panel members at the rate of $415 per meeting to align with Tier 1 rate determined by the Salaries Allowances Tribunal, SAT. And the rationale for that is to be consistent with statements I've made on previous payments for members of our advisory groups and committees, that they should be aligned with the SAT determinations.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bull? Councillor Johnson? Did you want to speak to it?
Oh, sorry. I kind of did already. Nothing further to add,
Okay.
thanks.
Councillor Bull? Would anyone like to speak against? Sure, Deputy Mayor.
Just a question, please. So I just saw the change. So my question: are we also proposing here in this alternative to reduce the fee for the chairperson? So the officer's accommodation is for 500. Is this what being proposed here? Just so I know.
I'll just. Would you like to respond?
Did you want me to answer that? Yeah, that was my intention, because I think I don't think the SAT determination differentiates.
Are we able to receive some advice from the city why they decided to provide or suggest a different fee for the chair?
Sure, I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I mean, the main reason why there's a difference there is because of their probably the more responsibility they carry in terms of running the meeting and some of the other requirements that's outlined in the terms of reference.
A follow-up question. Is this going to be the only, if you want, panel or committee that we have in the city where a community member is going to chair the meeting? Like a non-councillor person is going to chair the meeting?
Through the Mayor, we do have another committee, the Design Review Panel. It's not a committee, so it's not subject to the same SAT requirements, but the Design Review Panel has a chair and a set of architects that sit on it, and the chair is an independent architect that forms part of the Design Review Panel.
And thank you. And that chair, does he get or she more
Yes.
higher fees?
Yes, they get paid a higher rate than the members of that
Thank
panel.
you. Thank you. I probably will foreshadow the officers' accommodation. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item? If not, I'll go to the mover to close.
Thank you. I mean, my intention with this one, just to probably clarify some of the points made, was not to undermine the position of chair, but noting that, you know, many of us chair committees and don't get paid additional fees for doing that. But just to be consistent with my previous statements about the way that we remunerate our committee members, to be consistent and not have to debate it every year.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Ball, Councillor Johnson. All those against? It's Councillor Ossowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor and myself. That is lost. We now go to the foreshadowed motion, which was put forward by the Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
And I'll just see if there is a seconder.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I do want to have a few tweaks to that if I can.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I do want to combine what Councillor Johnson proposed, but just keep the chairperson with a different fee. So it will be that Council approves the remuneration of members of the SEP at the following rates per meeting, chairperson $500, and then we will have exactly what Councillor Johnson proposed, which is 415 per meeting to align with the Tier 1 rate, etc. So we'll combine it, because I think it was a good suggestion. I just want to keep the chair with a different fee.
So I'll just get the minute taker
Thank you.
to put that on the screen, and then I'll ask for a second. Well, I can ask for a seconder now, Councillor Latta. So we'll just get that on the screen. Oh, you can talk to it.
Look, I think it's quite straightforward. As I mentioned, I just thought that we should continue with the officer accommodation to differentiate the fees between the chairperson and other members, but I'm happy with what Councillor Johnson suggested.
Councillor Latta? Would anyone like to speak against this? Anyone for? I'll just make sure that it's on the screen before I put it to the vote. Okay, so it's on the screen correctly, Deputy Mayor, if you just confirm before I put it to the vote. Okay. Did you, okay. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ball, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against? It's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Ossowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland. That is carried. Okay, so we'll now move to the next item, which is 10.5.1.1, Policy Review, Communications and Social Media Policy. An addendum has been issued by the City. Deputy Mayor, you pulled this one.
Yes, I have an alternative motion that is not what you see here. I just revised it just a few minutes before the meeting, and I will explain, and the officers have it.
Okay, so just give us a moment to
Thank
have
you.
a read, if that's the correct one now on the screen. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll just see if there's a seconder. Councillor Latta.
Thank you. So I will extend what I did here. I saw that Councillor Everson has a few technical tweaks to the policy, which I was very happy to include here. So what you see here is actually replication of what Councillor Everson was proposing, and number D, which was already agreed by 1D by the committee. And that's it. That's the only changes. So it's really very similar to what Councillor Everson was concerned about. So I literally took everything to make sure that we hopefully have unanimous support tonight for this motion. And we have discussed it at the Policy and Development Review Committee for a long time. We have discussed it, and it was supported unanimously. And I would like to thank the councillors who supported it: Councillor Everson, Councillor Stasowski, Councillor Leder, myself, Councillor Johnson, and we also had Councillor Clark at that meeting. So it was supported unanimously, and specifically I have 1D here, which I would like to note, which we will be, for the first time, going to set an equal process with regards to how we conduct photo promotion of cities' activities by councillors and the mayor. And I think that will contribute to harmony between councillors, which is something, as I indicated, when I put my hand up to be the deputy mayor, very important to me. And I think that will send a clear message to the public that this is what we want to see. We want to see united council. We want to see everyone included. We want to see fairness. And this will bring us there, hopefully, is one step forward. There are many other steps, but this is one step forward. And as I said, the policy committee debated this and unanimously supported it. So hopefully we can move on with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ladder.
Yeah, just to reiterate that we did have really lengthy discussions that I believe ended with agreement, and everybody unanimously supported what came out of that. And I do think that the photo opportunity instruction in here around that, the policy around that, really helps to depoliticise the public's understanding of what's happening around photo ops, and makes that a neutral thing. So I think it's good change. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this? Councillor Eason.
Yeah, I'd just probably like to foreshadow my alternative that's in the run sheet, please.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Thank you. Look, I didn't have any opposing views. I can't really respond to anything, but I understand that there is a concern about 1D, if Councillor Everson now does not want to support it, but I guess we might debate it very soon. Hopefully not. Hopefully everyone, Madam Mayor, we'll send a clear signal to everyone. We are one council, and all councillors are part of it, and not one. And just for all councillors to know, I gave up on my priority as deputy mayor as part of this provision. I was happy at the committee to remove the sentence. As you can see, initially it required me to be second after the mayor. I was happy to remove myself for the harmony of the council, which is very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Ladder, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson. All those against is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland and myself. That is lost. We now go to the foreshadowed motion, which Councillor Eason, you've also provided that.
Yeah, it's in the run sheet.
So we'll get that up on the screen. Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Osazowski. Councillor Eason.
Yeah, look, it's quite similar, but not exactly the same. So, look, the main differences in this one is, as councillors might remember, I requested, or there was definitely interest to defer this item from previous OCMs because there was a key staff member that was away, and that's the reason for this alternative motion. It incorporates the majority of feedback from the policy committee meetings, striking a balance that provides clarity for the officers to better manage communications as well as guidance for best practices in social media. But most importantly, what it does is it provides a very simple and clear and workable solution for staff. It was relayed to us in the committee meetings that having a crowd of councillors, so to speak, is not really a good look for social media, and therefore that's the reason I didn't want to support the previous, and that's why I'm offering this alternative on the table. It's about getting the right balance and around community engagement and the positive message for the city, for our community members, so they can see that very clearly. So a lot of the sentiment that the Deputy Mayor was just proposing, but just making it much more workable for city staff.
Thank you. Councillor Ossowski.
Thank you. 3 words I took: simple, clear, and a workable solution for the city.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Councillor Johnson.
Thanks. I don't know for or against. I was certainly just my recollection of what we advised in the meeting when we discussed this was not about a crowd of councillors being a problem, but actually including members of the community, perhaps who have advocated for things being included when we do promotional activities, and that's not here. I assume that will happen eventually. Perhaps I could ask a question about how that would be achieved, in fact, if I could, please.
I will go to the Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor. If the city initiative involves an item that has closely been worked in conjunction with a community group, usually a community member would be invited to be part of a city-led photo opportunity. In the item or the alternative that is listed here, it refers to the policy setting being that the Mayor would be involved in the photo opportunity, and if not available, that would be delegated to the Deputy Mayor, and if not available, then the Mayor may delegate that to a relevant ward councillor. So there is still that opportunity to have 2 people in a photo, including a community member, based on the item.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Ladder.
I think I just want to note that I feel like if we are going to have a policy committee, then we should have these discussions in the policy committee, and we should have the people who can give us the right information and advice in that meeting, and ask the questions that we have in that meeting, so that we can hash all of this out, so that we don't end up with this process of policies dragging on and on and on. Otherwise, it's a massive waste of the city's resources, our time, all of that, to go through something just to have to rework it at the end of that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, look, I am also quite disappointed. We had a very lengthy, I think more than an hour discussion about some of the issues, and specifically this issue around photo opportunities. The committee, including you, Councillor Gibson, supported it unanimously. I thought it was a great message that can come out. So I see that has changed now. I'm not sure why exactly. In what was proposed is that in addition to the Mayor or the Deputy Mayor, at least 1 relevant councillor or ward councillor be invited to all photo opportunities on a rotating basis, alphabetically by ward. I thought it is very equal. I didn't think it's a big change. I want to see everyone included, all councillors from all wards. I thought it's fine. Yes, if you recall, councillors, I think a year and a half ago, I brought a motion to deal with this specific issue. Council at the time, the previous council did not support it. It did not receive great headlines for the council. So I hope that council will not support what we have on the table.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? I'll go to the mover to close then.
Nothing further. Thanks.
Okay, I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Ossowski, Councillor Easton, Councillor Sutherland and myself. All those against? Councillor Ladder, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson. That is carried. So we now move on to we'll now move to adopt the remaining items in section 10 en bloc.
Just to be super clear, is the the item that's being, local planning strategy has been withdrawn.
I'll just go to the CEO to confirm that for you on the mic.
Through you, Madam Mayor, because the item has been deferred, withdrawn from the agenda, then you will not be adopting that en bloc, Councillor Bull. That won't be included.
Okay, so do I have a mover and seconder to move the remaining items on block? Move Councillor Bull, seconded Councillor Ladder. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, so we'll now move on to notices of motion. The first one is 11.1, Councillor Bull reserve reallocations, and an addendum has been issued to councillors for that. Councillor Bull, did you wish to read it out loud, or are you happy that councillors?
I'm confident councillors
Okay.
can absorb it.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Bull.
Thank you. So, this motion I bring for a number of reasons, which I'll step through. Firstly, the process to divest our aged care assets started quite a number of years ago, and in relation to the aged care assets, the subject of this item back in 2020. And so that process has now been completed, which results in a significant amount of money now becoming an unrestricted reserve allocation, 22 million. I want to firstly acknowledge and thank all of the staff, and there's been quite a lot of staff over the 4 or 5 years that this process has been undertaken. I'd like to thank them all for the work that they have done, along with the various councillors over the years who have been a member of the Aged Care Divestment Committee, current members, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Johnson and myself, but there have been others over the years as well, with the primary focus in making sure that our residents are supported throughout. That has always been central to that process, and now it is completed. We find 22 million introduced to our reserves. So I think that is really quite a significant moment for this council. So the first reason why I bring this item is to acknowledge and highlight completion of that significant strategic project. Recently, councillors were in a council workshop where the city presented a new way of approaching reserves, a particularly strategic way which reduces the number of reserves to around half or thereabouts. So the second reason for bringing this motion was to give an opportunity to introduce this new strategic approach to our reserves to our ratepayers. And the second reason is that if council supports this motion, it'll make the budgeting process a little easier because it will provide certainty around how the reserves will be structured at a much earlier time in the process. Third reason, introduction of a climate action reserve. So in taking this strategic approach to reserves, after we had the councillor briefing, the workshop, I did reflect on what opportunities we have. And I felt that there is an opportunity to signal the importance of working towards our net zero targets, a strategic decision that we as a council took a number of years ago, and continue to work to deliver on the emissions reduction and renewable energy plan. So the third reason I bring this is to encourage the organisation to think about how to deliver on those plans in a way that lowers our carbon footprint. Fourth reason, Morley Library Seed Reserve. I support the Mayor's platform that she ran on recently to deliver a new library for Morley. It's a significant commitment, election commitment, but one I think that our community needs, wants and deserves, and I thank her for bringing that forward. It is a significant project though, a significant strategic project, and I think that we need to start the process on how that is delivered as a united council, supporting the Mayor in this promise earlier than later. And so introducing a Morley Library Seed Reserve, I believe, is an important first step in bringing that project to fruition. Fifth reason, Bayswater City Soccer Club Reserve. This is another strategic decision. This reserve is needed for a plan to be completed which the club needs in order to seek third-party funding. They've made it really clear, and we had a deputy make that really clear, that this plan is utterly critical in order for them to move forward with their plan. It's a significant development, but it's a development that would support the club, but the way that it's been designed would actually support the local community as well. It doesn't just face inward towards the pitches, but it also faces outward. It creates opportunities for income streams for this club, which goes straight to the future sustainability of one of the important senior and junior clubs in our district. So the fifth reason is to confirm the strategic decision to support the redevelopment of Bayswater City Soccer Club's new facility. They're my main reasons. The only other thing I would mention is the way the rate smoothing reserve has been put forward. And this is something else that I reflected on quite a lot after that councillor briefing workshop that we received. And what the motion does is it adds more rigour to the process in which we forward plan. So instead of putting a whole amount of money in the reserve today, what we do is we leave a portion in there, which through my discussions with the administration, we're clear that we do need some of those things because the point of the rate smoothing reserve is to be ready for those one-off larger budget items that aren't recurring. So we have a portion in there, but we also forward plan. So when we know that there's 3-year valuations coming, we start to put away year on year a proportion of that. And it's the same with elections. We know that there's an election every 2 years, so we plan by smoothing that out over the 2 years. They're the main reasons why I brought this, and I encourage councillors to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. You're likewise going through the aged care divestment process, which is something that I had been involved in almost by accident since first being elected as a councillor in 2017, not really knowing when I jumped on the committee what a process it would be. And certainly there's lots of moving parts, lots of people involved. And there was always this idea that at the end of the process, a successful divestment would mean opportunities for the city to set themselves up for the future. So given that divestment has been completed, I think it is very timely that we do consider this. So I thank Councillor Ball for taking the initiative to close the loop a little bit on this big and long-awaited transaction. I'm supportive of the general principles on it. I think it gives us some good opportunities, and without going into the detail of the whole table, which is a bit overwhelming, but I think the general principles in it are going to be a good opportunity to strategically set up our council for very good financial decisions and to be able to make the most of that opportunity that's presented itself to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Councillor Ladder?
Can I just ask a question? In the thing, it said that there was an amendment to it, but I just couldn't...
Addendum.
Okay. What was the change? I just can't see any difference between...
It was the table, but I'll go to the director to...
Right.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there were 2 items. One was updating the table to show the adopted 30 June 24 position of the reserves as part of the 23-24 budget, and also then some advice on the voting requirements.
Would you like to speak on that item, Councillor Ladder? No, in a minute's fine. Would anyone, Councillor Osazowski?
I have a question. What's on the table tonight for us to consider? So this will then go into our budget process. So is this then cemented in that budget process, or through our budget process we'll have other opportunities to comment on the reserves and the other items that Councillor Ball has mentioned tonight?
Thank you. I'll go to the director to respond.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The reserves can only be adopted in full as part of budget adoption. So tonight's simple majority vote, if that's the case, will inform future budget workshops with the council in the lead up to the adoption of the budget.
Would you like to speak on the item?
All I'll say is there are a few of the reserves there that I would like to discuss more when we come to our workshops. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, look, I would like to thank Councillor Bull, first of all, for bringing the issue around the money coming to us from the aged care divestment, which is the first time that we're actually discussing it publicly. So thank you. I think it should have been public by now, but it's good timing to discuss how we're going to allocate the money, and it should be done publicly. So that's great move. I also support the move to go to several major reserves, and specifically Councillor Bull proposal to have one environmental reserve. I think that's a great move. I do have concerns with some of the changes also to the reserves. Some reserves have kept, like the Bayswater Bowling Club, the Bayswater Tennis Club, the Noranda Netball Courts, and we have 2 new ones created for the Morley Library and for the Bayswater City Soccer Club Rooms Redevelopment Reserve, which we will discuss at the next item. But on the other hand, we are removing others, and I'm not sure about the consistency, why we are removing the Mellons Lakes Reserve, for example, if this is a live issue. Why are we removing the Morley City Centre Reserve if it is a very live issue for me? Why we are removing the Golf Course Reserve? So why we are keeping some, not keeping others? I would have preferred to first discuss the long-term financial plan and be reassured that we are going to allocate funds for all the needed projects in the next 10 years before I support removing some of the reserves that are currently still needed, like some of the ones that I just mentioned, and there are a few others. So those are just my concerns about just the details around the table. But overall, the concept, I think, is good.
Thank you. Councillor Ladder.
Thank you. I'm really pleased that this is public and transparent. I think that's really important. And I've been looking over the Paxton reports recently, which recommended that bundling those reserves into larger reserves. And so I also support that. And I feel like whilst there are still some small funds remaining, I take the city's advice from last week that they will roll off over time in the short term, probably. But I think that I'm most excited about the strategic direction around having a climate directed reserve and the opportunities that might create for people to think about how to do things differently in order to draw upon that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Easton?
Yeah, go on. I'll say my bit. Look, I'm pretty delighted to see this actually as well. It's a much better and more sustainable financial management reserve structure, as Councillor Ladder just mentioned, Paxton report, one of the findings. So it's great to see that we're addressing that. Aligning reserves with the city's newly developed asset management plans as well just makes sense. Giving them the direct link to the asset classes closes out the loop on this large body of improvement work in the asset management space, and it provides clear funding pathways to deliver on our commitments as councillors. This is a great new direction that the city has been working towards under the guidance of our Mayor, the CEO and the refreshed leadership team, and some of the staff that are even here tonight. So I'm thrilled to pieces to see all this finally coming together, and the future's bright for the city of Bayswater.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Thank you, and thanks for all the comments. I'll just make a couple of comments in response to a few things that were said. Firstly, that's right, it isn't set in stone. We're unable to set the reserves in stone, but it does provide direction and certainty that ultimately can't be achieved through the workshop process. And I think that will be really helpful for the organisation to be able to go ahead and continue working on the budget, knowing that they do have certainty around how we feel about the reserves. We'll continue to refine it. And in fact, after I worked through this with the staff, and then after my meeting that I had with the Mayor to work through this motion as well, I did. And then when it came to the council, and then after last week, I did feel there were improvements that can be made to this to make it even more effective. But, you know, the standing orders wouldn't allow me to make those kinds of changes because they would be substantive. But it will provide that guidance that I think will be really helpful for this budget process. And the other point that I would make, Councillor Eveson mentions this process with the guidance of the Mayor. I would like to say thank you to the Mayor for the time that she has given me in working through this motion. After I put it forward, I let the Mayor know that, you know, this is a significant strategic step. And once I got it to a point where I felt it was probably about 80% there, the two of us met for a considerable amount of time and kind of stepped it through, made changes, work together in a way to seek compromise, and it's a better motion that doesn't deliver 100% for everyone, but definitely probably gets 80% there for most. So thank you for that, and I hope councillors support it.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Sazowski, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against is Councillor Sutherland. That is carried. We'll now go to 11.2, Councillor Bull, feasibility study for Bayswater City Soccer Club.
Happy that folks have read it.
Okay, so do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull.
Probably this motion should have come first, but I did lodge the other one first before this one. And so we kind of are working in retrograde order. This is puzzle piece number 1 to the new reserve that we've supported in the previous motion for the Bayswater City Soccer Club redevelopment. The funding needs to actually come, a portion of the funding, my understanding, needs to come sooner and can't be dealt with at budget time in order to allow the club enough time to engage in a meaningful way with state and federal politicians and candidates in the lead up to the state and federal election to seek commitments. And what I've been told is that this plan is critical to get them to the point where they can actually have meaningful conversations with those people in different tiers of government and running for state and federal positions to get the kind of commitment that they need to deliver this facility. On that basis, I felt that it was important that this first portion is brought forward now. I'd like to say thank you to the CEO who indulged me in helping me kind of work out how this works in terms of what this funding amount needs to look like now and then after the financial year. And on that basis, I hope councillors support it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, look, I fully support this. The Bayswater City Soccer Club is an important club for our community. Lots of our residents, including children, go to that club and being supported by that club. And this is obviously a step that, once approved by the council, it will be in the court of the state and federal governments to provide the rest of the funding, hopefully later on, to support the plans. So I fully support this.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Anyone for? Councillor Maleka.
Sorry, I just needed to add, look, this has been a long time coming, so thank you for bringing this forward. Look, this is going to be a huge asset to the city, and we will end up with a state-of-the-art facility. So, yeah, it'll bring a lot of income streams for us, and I welcome it.
Thank you. Councillor Eason.
Yeah, just a similar one was what Councillor Maleka just mentioned. So, look, really supportive of improving our asset renewal and upgrading our community facilities. This is the foundations and core business of local government. These are key reasons as well why I wanted to be a councillor, and it's wonderful to see that changes are now taking place. We are well known for having the best playing surfaces in Perth, and this was highlighted recently in the shortlisting for the Women's World Cup. But our surfaces get attention, but our club rooms let us down, and this is what I've seen across the district. We've got really, really great playing surfaces, but our club rooms are terrible, and they need to be upgraded. So this is a really good first step. Great to see this. Thanks, Councillor Ball. And also, I guess, with the right focus and financially sustainable business practices that we're now seeing through the city, we can have community facilities to the same high standard as our fields and playing surfaces, which I think is really important. Success breeds success, and by enabling the Bayswater City Cycle Club to redevelop their club rooms, this is another positive step forward for the City of Bayswater.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? I'll just say that I'm also really supportive of this motion. I'm glad to see it put forward. Thank you, Councillor Bull. But I will just reiterate, this is just the first step for the club. So whilst we're all excited about what that means, I would just call upon our state and federal MPs, candidates, to really please meet with our club. This is a huge, huge beneficial project which will reshape Bayswater, and we can't do it by ourselves, but we are showing, if we support this tonight, we are showing that the city is taking the first steps to provide our support to the club, that we are fully behind this project, and we need the support from both federal and state governments. Would anyone else like to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Thank you, and again, thanks for all the comments. Councillor Maleka mentions that it is a long time coming. I do remember the first meeting I had with the management committee to discuss their vision while I was mayor, so it was actually quite a long time ago, and so I'd forgotten about that meeting, and you reminded me of that. So hopefully councillors support this.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull and myself. All those against? Councillor Johnson. That is carried. Okay, so we'll now go to the next item, which is 11.3, notice of motion, Councillor Peterson-Pick, Deputy Mayor, for potential land acquisition for parking in Maylands. I will just acknowledge that Councillor Latta is leaving the room due to a financial interest, but also that there is a confidential attachment. So if there's any debate around that someone brings up, we will need to go behind closed doors. So please be conscious of what you're saying during debate. So we've got that on the screen. Councillor, did you want to read it out? You're happy with that? Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bull, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, the motion before you is probably one of the most important motions that I've raised during my whole time on council. It is a very significant proposal as it could determine the future prosperity of the Maylands Town Centre, in my view. There is a reason why the Maylands Ratepayers and Residents Association voted unanimously to support the motion, and the Maylands Business Association and many businesses also provided strong support for the motion, as we also saw in the many emails that we received on this issue during the last week. Parking has been a major concern that has been raised with me in Maylands over the years by almost everyone. As you know, I've been pushing for many years to advance and prioritize various actions that will help making our suburbs, and in particular our town centres, more pedestrian and cycle-friendly, and I will continue to do so. Main Road's revitalisation plan for the Maylands Town Centre, which will come soon before Council for final consideration, proposes some great changes that will help making the town centre a much more attractive place for people to visit, shop, live, with a strong focus on slowing traffic and supporting people with wide footpaths for walkers and more fresco dining, as well as space for many new shady trees. We need this especially as a result of the closure of the Caledonian Avenue level crossing, but also to attract more businesses and quality development. But the result of some of those improvements in the plan would be a big reduction in parking bays, which is a massive concern. We will need to ensure that we can provide the right balance between all needs and that the town centre has adequate number of parking bays to support those who live far, but we would still want to attract to Maylands, and those who simply are not physically able to walk far or ride, like many seniors. Until we have all the right infrastructure in place to get sufficient number of people to walk and ride to the town centre and good bus frequencies, we must ensure that we can provide enough parking bays. But that is not the only issue that brought me to initiate this purchase. Currently, there are around 32 parking bays being used by the general public that are located on private lots as part of a big parking area behind the Maylands post office, for those who know. This car park is full in peak time, and I know that because this is where I park when I need to drive to the town centre. Those lots might be developed in the near future, definitely after we will see more new development occurring on 8th Avenue, such as the Lyric Apartments complex and the new childcare building. If those parking lots behind 8th Avenue are developed and we lose those parking bays, that will lead to a serious parking crisis, which will definitely harm businesses, and it could be a chain reaction. We might see more empty shops in addition to those that are already there in the town centre. I am deeply concerned about this possibility. The ultimate solution to deal with those parking issues that I mentioned is by purchasing 45 9th Avenue, which could be used for parking in the short, middle term. As the officer's report stated, if we combine or amalgamate it with the adjacent public parking bays that the city already owns, we might be able to reconfigure that whole car park area in a way that might even add much more than 17 parking bays. The lot could be sold for development in the future if there is no need for it anymore, and we are likely to get back the money spent for purchasing the lot, and probably much more, as the prices, as you know, for lots in the Maylands town centre only go up with time. Our land acquisition and disposal strategy already identifies the need to purchase lot in that area. We also received an offer from the seller, which is a rare opportunity to purchase a lot in such a strategic location and allow our CEO to negotiate the price so that we do not miss this opportunity. The risk of purchasing the lot is very low in my view. At any time, the council can sell it. As you know, there is funding available for this purchase in our strategic property reserve, which is there for this purpose. As we've just discussed before, we recently received $22 million from the disposal of our aged care facilities, and we are also currently considering the option of disposing various city-owned lots that are located in very random locations around the city. Finally, the council previously authorised the purchase of the giant parking lot near Les Hensman Library in Morley and the purchase of the parking lot on Hamilton Street in Bayswater. Those purchases were supported, if I recall correctly, unanimously, as we realised the advantages in securing those lots for the benefit of the Morley and Bayswater town centres. The same applies to the Maylands town centre, so I hope to get everyone's support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ball.
I'd like to thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Peterson-Pick, Deputy Mayor, for bringing this item forward. I think it is a strategic purchase opportunity in a town centre, Maylands town centre, and so I don't see it just as a short-term decision, but rather a longer-term investment opportunity in one of our activity centres. We know that the Maylands Town Centre is going through a transformational period and is probably going to continue to do so for the next decade or so. And having strategic land holdings in ratepayers' hands, in cities' hands, I think puts us in a really unique position to be able to capitalise on that in whatever way it will be in the next decade or two. I had similar thoughts with the purchase of the Hamilton Street car park in Bayswater and was comfortable with the purchase on that basis as well. I do hear lots and lots of people concerned about a lack of parking in the Maylands town centre, and while it is positioned near a train station for locals who don't live near a train station, but maybe live too far to walk, it is important that they have an opportunity to be able to drive their car into the area. And so ensuring that there are adequate parking bays to support the local economy in that centre is something that I think we should take advantage of.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Councillor Johnson. Oh, sorry, Councillor Eason. Councillor Johnson.
We were being so polite. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for bringing this forward. It does align with our strategies. We have got money squirreled away for it. But I will say, I will take this opportunity. I didn't say this when we talked about previous parking permits. I'm not a fan of parking. Parking is not free. It costs us money. There's no such thing as free parking. This will cost us money, cost our ratepayers money to provide. I never have problems parking in Maylands, mostly because I ride my bike. And even when I do, I think there is a perception of missing parking rather than actuality. I have driven there and I do find parking. But anyway, just putting it on the record, not a fan of parking, but we'll support this one because it is in line with our strategies. And I was actually persuaded by some of the emails that we got from some of the folks in Maylands, and I'll just, Michael DeRuta says, it's a gift of, I urge councillors to see this gift of an opportunity, and it is that, so supporting that one.
Thank you. Councillor Easton.
Thanks. Probably just one question for the city, if I could. There was reference to having funding in a reserve in the LADs for this. Can I just get an update on that? Because I didn't think there was any money in there.
I'll go to the Director, Corporate.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The Strategic Property Reserve isn't expected to have a balance to cover this, but we will seek funds as part of mid-year budget review.
Look, yeah, I'm gonna speak against this one, and it's a difficult one. And I did a lot of research to try and understand this because every town centre is quite different, and we did just purchase a block of land near the Bayswater train station, as well as the long-term land parcel at Les Hansman. So, look, I went through the parking plan for Maylands, and it was pretty resounding in demonstrating to me that parking isn't an issue in the short or medium terms in Maylands. There's many actions that have not been done or have been deemed not required, but of the ones that have been done, it's really about line marking, signage to tell people where parking is available, and that's the thing I find, and it's a very Perth thing. If you can't park out the front, you don't have enough parking. So there's plenty of parking abundant in the streets surrounding the town centre from when I went through the report, to the point where the city actually isn't doing line marking or putting signage up in some areas because there is a lot of it. You know, is it a strategic land use? That's the next part of it. Look, I'm quite interested in strategic land uses, especially around Maylands and for revitalisation, but I don't think it's of a large enough and in the right location. So it's just off the guidance. I won't talk about dollars and cents because we can't do that. But, you know, that is definitely a factor in regards to value for money for this opportunity. And as I mentioned, you know, the right opportunity at the right time. Our town centres are all unique. The Morley Les Hansman, that's been around for some time and has a strategic position. The Hamilton one was definitely a steal, I think, in regards to what that's already developed for. There's no money. The city had already paid a lease to use it as a car park, so that was set in train. So I think that's quite a different situation and would be a discredit to the other centres to try and align this with Maylands. So I'm not going to be supporting this one.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak for? I will. So I agree with the comments from both the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Bull. I do think it is a strategic purchase. It is in the Maylands Town Centre, and I think there were comments made that it will only increase in value over time. So I don't see this as a bad purchase for us. I do think it's a strategic purchase. I also supported the Les Hansman acquisition as well as the Hamilton Street acquisition because unlike some other people, I actually do believe that parking is necessary, particularly to support businesses. I know that when I choose which businesses I frequent in any location, you know, if there's a lack of parking, sometimes I won't go there because I need something easy and convenient to get to. So yeah, I think that this is a good purchase, and given what the recommendation says in terms, okay, I won't talk about the recommendation, but I almost did it myself. Okay, yeah, so I do support this for the Maylands Town Centre. Would anyone like to speak against? Councillor
Yeah.
Sutherland?
Yeah, I've been on the council 10 years and I appreciate this. Maylands is always in a transitional zone at time. It's been transition since I think I've been 13, which is a long time ago. It would be good if we could get some more of these buildings around Guildford Road to be done up a bit more, or yeah, get something put in, some of the landowners to do something, instead of making the council always having to do things. I think the Hamilton Street was completely different. We already had skin in the game. We had a lease. We had an option to extend it. So instead of extending it, we decided to buy it, which I think was fair enough. Les Hansman, we had a strategic decision to purchase it 3 to 4 years ago, and there was a reserve to set up. This one, we just see money. Oh, let's buy this because we need a car park in Maylands for equity, I would say. I really don't see the point of this at this stage. It's I can't talk money, but I'm not sure. Well, I won't say anything about the money, but I really am against this, and I would please get councillors to reconsider their decision on this. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this? If not, I'll go to the mover to close.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who spoke, and definitely for those who are planning to support. Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is a strong point for this, and as councillors, we are required to also look forward and for the challenges that the future will bring, not only the situation right now, and as I indicated before, there will be massive challenges coming up when it comes to parking, specifically in Maylands. And if we will not take this opportunity, I'm afraid that there will not be an opportunity. And once there might be a parking crisis, and you will see a full gallery here with business owners and residents, which are already indicated to me personally, we will not have any answers, because there are no answers. We cannot create parking from nowhere. This lot is now available, and there is no other lots. And what will happen if we will not buy it? Someone else will buy it, and they will build a development there, and that will be locked forever. And and from what I'm familiar with the town centre, there are not many other opportunities there. They are already taken by other developments. I'm also happy, as I was reassured before the meeting, that there are funds also in the media budget review. And the last thing I want to mention is what I took from Councillor Stasowski before when we talked about the concrete batching plant, that we are here to listen to residents, and we need to go and see what residents want us to do. And residents spoke very clearly, not only to me, but to all of us, what they want us to do with their money. And they understand the money. The money was advertised, the price, which I indicated to them. No one provided any concern about it. This is their ratepayers' money. We are talking about serious stakeholders of the town centre. They are all saying unanimously, we need it. Not just because it's a nice thing to have, we really need it. They understand. If not everyone might have the full understanding of might come very soon, but they are. And if all businesses telling us we really, really need this purchase, and the ratepayers saying that, I think that when we go back to residents and asking them that question, what do you want us to do? So I think the answer was given to us. So I hope to get enough support, councillors, to pass the vote and purchase the lot. Thank you.
Thank you. So I now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Stasowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland. I use my casting vote to vote for. but the item's still lost.
Yeah, so councillors, a second vote was cast by the Mayor when the votes are equally divided in accordance with section 521 of the Act. However, section 1.4 stipulates that only the primary vote of each office holder can be used to achieve the absolute majority.
Can we please get Councillor Latta back in the room? So Councillor Latta, that item, notice of motion was lost. Okay, so we'll now move on to item 12, which is questions from members without notice. Are there any questions? No? I'll move on to item 13, new business of an urgent nature. There is none this evening. Item 14, confidential items. There is none this evening. So I will now close this evening's meeting at 9 o'clock. Thank you, councillors.